ever feel like, I don't know, the world's just gotten a whole lot more unpredictable? Like all the old playbooks, they just don't quite cut it anymore.
Right.
That's where I think Nassim Taleb's work really, really hits different. He's all about like embracing that uncertainty.
Yeah.
And that's what we're diving into today.
And the best part is, we can kind of skip that kind of 101 level. I think, our listeners, they get it.
Yeah, they're already there.
They're already thinking about this stuff, so we can really kind of dig into the implications of it, for their work, for their lives.
And what I find so fascinating about this particular source, it's how they use these business analogies, right?
Yes.
It just makes Taleb's ideas really click.
Yeah.
So get ready to connect the dots to, your own world, your own work, your own life, because this is about way more than just theory.
Exactly. And I think a great place to start is with probably, Taleb's most well-known idea,
Okay.
the Black Swan event.
Yeah.
Which, we hear about it a lot, but this source, they use this really great example of the iPhone, right?
Oh, yeah.
As this total shock to the system. Nobody saw it coming.
And it's not just that they didn't predict the iPhone itself. It's that the existing tools for market analysis, they couldn't even imagine a device like that.
Right.
It completely redefined the playing field.
Absolutely.
Which makes you wonder, are those tools even relevant anymore, in a world that's increasingly defined by these Black Swan events?
Exactly. And I think that's why the iPhone is such a great example, because it highlights this, this folly of trying to predict the future. Taleb argues that instead of focusing on what we think is going to happen, what we should really be doing is building systems that can handle, even benefit from the stuff we don't see coming.
Okay.
And that's where this idea of antifragility comes in.
So instead of just weathering the storm, you're talking about like becoming stronger because of the storm.
Precisely. It's like, imagine if your business was like the human immune system.
Right.
So you encounter a challenge, you encounter a setback, but instead of crumbling, you actually learn from it, you adapt, and you come back stronger, ready for the next challenge.
Okay, yeah.
And even bigger obstacles.
So like when Netflix, they were doing the DVD rentals.
Right.
And streaming came along.
Yeah.
They didn't just survive that. They became like this global streaming giant because they were able to adapt.
Exactly. They embraced that disruption, right? And you could say they were anti-fragile in that way. And, this applies to more than just business, right? This applies to us as individuals, too. Think about, a time in your own life where you face some major challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
Some major obstacle.
Yeah.
What happened?
It's like those of us who've been through tough times, we might come out a little bruised, but we're also like so much more resilient than we were before.
Right. You don't just bounce back, you bounce back stronger.
Yeah.
And that's the essence of anti-fragility.
Okay, so we've got these Black Swan events that nobody sees coming. We've got to build these anti-fragile systems, not just to survive, but to get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
What's another like key ingredient in this recipe for handling all this uncertainty?
Well, to really understand how to build that anti-fragility, I think we have to talk about this idea of skin in the game,
Okay.
which is our next stop on this deep dive. And, it's easy to give advice when there's no risk involved, right?
Yeah.
But when you actually have something to lose, the game changes completely.
Yeah, it's like telling someone how to invest their money versus putting your own money where your mouth is, right?
Exactly.
Suddenly, when it's your own skin in the game, you think differently about it.
Exactly. And this isn't just about, financial risk. It's about having a personal stake in the outcome of your decisions, whether it's a business or a creative project or even a relationship. When you have skin in the game, you're just inherently more invested in making sure that it goes well. You're more careful, you're more thoughtful, you're more accountable for your actions.
It's like they say, you learn more from your failures than your successes.
Right.
But it's more than just learning. It's having that, that ownership.
Right. Way.
To apply the lesson, to actually come back stronger.
Think about, a founder who's put their heart and soul into their company.
Right.
They've got skin in the game. Right. I mean, they've got everything on the line. Their time, their reputation, their vision.
Yeah.
They're not going to be out there making reckless decisions.
No.
And when they hit those inevitable setbacks, they're going to be all the more driven to learn and adapt.
Right. Is make or break time.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads us to another one of Taleb's ideas that I always found really intriguing. Mm-hmm. And that's this idea of the Lindy Effect.
Yeah.
This source, they talk about, Coca-Cola, the art of war.
Right.
These are things that have been around forever. And, chances are they're going to be around for a lot longer. There's this like inherent wisdom in longevity, don't you think?
It's so interesting how some things just like stand the test of time, right?
Yeah.
Like they have this staying power. And I think that's really what the Lindy Effect is getting at. This idea that the longer something has been around, whether it's a company or a tradition or even an idea, the more likely it is to continue surviving.
It really makes you think twice about chasing every shiny object out there,
Right.
Maybe there's something to be said for focusing on those things that have that lasting power.
Exactly.
That kind of classic appeal.
This isn't to say that everything old is, automatically good or that innovation isn't important.
Right.
But I think what the Lindy Effect reminds us is that there is an inherent value in things that have endured,
Yeah.
things that have stood the test of time. I mean, look at vinyl records, right?
Oh, that's such a good example.
For a while there, in the age of digital music, that was like dead.
Right.
Nobody was listening to vinyl, and now it's back.
Yeah.
Because I think it offers something, authentic, something tangible.
And it's not just nostalgia.
Right.
It's people rediscovering that value.
Yeah.
Something that's built to last.
Exactly. And you see this play out in other areas too, not just, products or businesses. Think about, wisdom traditions that have been passed down for generations.
Oh.
They endure, they survive because they tap into some fundamental truth about, human nature.
It's like that saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Black Swan events, we've got building anti-fragility, skin in the game, the wisdom of the Lindy Effect.
Right.
What's the final piece of this puzzle when it comes to navigating uncertainty?
Well, we talked about preparing for the unexpected, but I think we also have to understand the nature of risk itself, especially in a world where I think we often miscalculate it. And that brings us to this idea of fat tails, which Taleb talks about.
Okay, so this is the idea that those unexpected things, they might actually be more likely to happen than we think.
Exactly. You see, most people think about risk like a coin flip, right?
Right.
50-50.
Yeah.
But Taleb argues that life doesn't really work that way.
Okay.
Those extreme events, the outliers, they're actually more common than we realize. These are what he calls the fat tails, and they represent those events that traditional risk models just completely miss.
So it's not just about expecting the unexpected. It's understanding that the unexpected might be a lot closer to home they were comfortable with.
Exactly. Think about the 2008 financial crisis.
Okay.
Caught a lot of people off guard because they were relying on models that didn't account for that kind of extreme event.
Right.
And yet, those kinds of fat tail events, they happen all the time.
Yeah.
And not just in finance.
Right. It's like that old saying, if you're at the poker table and you can't spot the sucker, it's probably you.
Yeah.
But in this case, the sucker is the one who's not prepared for those low probability, high impact events. So how do we guard against that?
It's not about becoming paranoid.
Right.
It's not about being risk averse. But it is about building systems that are robust enough to handle those shocks, to handle those unexpected events.
So it's about understanding that not all risks are created equal.
Exactly.
So it all kind of circles back, doesn't it,
It does.
to anti-fragility.
Yeah.
Building in that redundancy, diversifying, creating systems that can bend without breaking, really cultivating that mindset that's adaptable, that's resilient in the face of all this unexpected stuff.
Exactly. It's about moving away from this idea that we can predict and control everything and embracing this reality that uncertainty is just a fundamental part of life.
Right.
And that within that uncertainty, there's also tremendous opportunity for those who are prepared.
This has been great. I mean, this deep dive has given me so much to think about. I love how, this source really breaks it down in a way that's like accessible and applicable.
Yeah.
So for our listener out there, let's bring this home. If you had to pick just one of Taleb's ideas that really, really resonated with you from everything we talked about today, what would it be?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
It's like trying to pick your favorite tool out of a Swiss Army knife, right?
Right.
They each have like their own specific use. But I think if there's a common thread here, it's this shift in mindset.
Okay.
From trying to predict and control everything to really like leaning into adaptability, leaning into resilience.
That's a great way to put it. Because if we can just accept that we can't control everything, right? Like these Black Swan events that are going to happen, then it becomes less about like, how do we stop it? And more about, okay, how do we actually thrive in that kind of environment?
Exactly. And that's what makes these ideas so powerful, you know? Understanding anti-fragility, embracing skin the game, recognizing the wisdom of that Lindy effect, acknowledging those fat tails. These aren't just like abstract concepts.
Yeah.
These are tools, practical tools that we can use to navigate a world that's increasingly complex and unpredictable.
And what I appreciate about, this source that we've been looking at, it's that it doesn't just explain these concepts, right? It actually helps you, it gives you the language to actually start applying it to your own life.
It's about asking yourself those questions. Okay, where in my life, in my work, am I being too fragile? Where can I inject more skin in the game? What can I learn from the things that have been around forever, right? And how can I prepare for those fat tail events, even if I don't know exactly what form they're going to take?
It's like Taleb is giving us this whole new operating system for a world that just doesn't run on the old software anymore.
Exactly.
It's time to upgrade, right?
It's time to upgrade our thinking.
Well, this has been fantastic. I mean, I always learn so much from these deep dives. It's amazing how much insight we can pack into these conversations.
It's always such a pleasure to get to explore these ideas, these topics with you.
And for you listening, we're just getting started. We've got a lot more deep dives to come. So make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Until then.